You wake up. Another morning, the same ceiling. The same walls. The same crushing silence that's been your only companion for a decade now. 10 years alone. A full decade of human isolation. And if you think that sounds dramatic, you need to understand something fundamental about your brain. It wasn't designed for this. None of us were. What happens to a human being after 10 years of complete isolation is unjust loneliness. A systematic biological and psychological breakdown that medical researchers call isolation rot, and it will fundamentally destroy who you are at a cellular level. This isn't about feeling sad. This isn't about missing parties or craving conversation. This is about your prefrontal cortex physically shrinking. This is about your hippocampus deteriorating like you're aging at triple speed. This is about your body entering a state of chronic inflammation that mimics the physical trauma of a car accident every single day. The science here is absolutely brutal, and it doesn't care about your willpower or your mental toughness. After 10 years alone, you are not the same organism that entered isolation. You are something different, something damaged, and the worst part, most of the damage is invisible until it's irreversible. Let's establish the technical reality first, because this is where survival thinking has to begin with physics and biology, not hope. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, and these neurons survive through constant social stimulation. When you interact with another human being, your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. These aren't just feel-good chemicals. They're structural maintenance compounds that keep your neural pathways functioning. Without regular social contact, your brain begins pruning these pathways like a gardener cutting dead branches. Studies on prisoners in solitary confinement show measurable brain damage after just 15 days. After 10 years, the neurological devastation is catastrophic. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the region responsible for emotional regulation and decision-making, can shrink by up to 20%. That's not a metaphor. That's actual physical mass loss in your brain tissue. But the breakdown goes deeper than your skull. Your immune system enters a state of chronic hyperactivation. See, your body interprets prolonged isolation as a threat. Signal an evolutionary response from when being alone meant you were separated from your tribe and vulnerable to predators. Your stress hormones spike and stay elevated. Cortisol floods your system continuously. Your body starts producing inflammatory markers like you're fighting off a constant infection. This leads to accelerated cardiovascular disease, increased cancer risk, and cognitive decline that mirrors advanced dementia. A comprehensive study from Brigham Young University found that chronic loneliness increases mortality risk by 26%. 10 years of it. You're looking at biological aging that's advanced 15 to 20 years beyond your chronological age. Now, here's where the step-by-step breakdown gets critical. Because if you're in this situation, or preparing for a long-term isolation scenario, you need to understand the progression and the intervention points. Month 1 through 6, you're still holding it together. Your brain is compensating. You might talk to yourself more, create imaginary conversations, maintain routines. This is normal and actually protective. Month 6 through 12, the real deterioration begins. Your sleep architecture falls apart. Your circadian rhythms destabilize. You start experiencing microsleep episodes during the day. Your perception of time becomes distorted. Days blend together. Hours feel like minutes or stretch into eternities. Year 1 through 3. This is where isolation rot sets in structurally. Your language centers begin atrophying from lack of use. Even your internal dialogue starts simplifying. Complex thoughts become harder to maintain. You'll notice you can't focus on reading for as long. Mathematical reasoning degrades. Your memory consolidation fails. You'll forget what you did yesterday but remember childhood events with hallucinatory clarity. Year 3 through 7. The psychological edge becomes everything here. This is the danger zone for complete personality disintegration. Your sense of self, which is normally reinforced through social mirroring and interaction, begins fracturing. You might develop what psychologists call absence hallucinations, seeing people who aren't there, hearing voices, feeling phantom touches. These are signs of insanity. They your brain desperately, trying to fulfill its social needs by manufacturing experiences. The critical survival technique here is external structure. You need to create artificial social frameworks. Record yourself speaking and play it back. Write letters to imaginary recipients. Maintain a detailed journal written as if explaining your day to another person. These aren't coping mechanisms, they're neural preservation techniques. Your language centers need exercise or they atrophy like unused muscles. Year 7 through 10. By this point, if you've survived psychologically, you've probably developed what researchers call isolation adaptation syndrome. You've created an entirely internal social world. You have conversations with multiple aspects of yourself. You've anthropomorphized objects in your environment. You've built elaborate mental narratives. This adaptation is both protective and dangerous. Protective because it prevents complete psychological collapse. Dangerous because reintegration becomes nearly impossible. The neural pathways for normal social interaction have been replaced with substitute pathways. Meeting an actual human after 10 years of this can trigger severe anxiety, panic attacks, even psychotic breaks. Your brain literally doesn't recognize face-to-face social interaction as safe anymore. The physical interventions that can slow this rot are specific and scientifically grounded. First, forced physical exercise to the point of exhaustion daily. This stimulates BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes neural growth and partially compensates for social stimulation loss. Second, maintain a varied diet with heavy emphasis on omega-2,3 fatty acids and antioxidants. Your brain is under oxidative stress from chronic inflammation. You need to feed it repair materials. Third, light exposure. Full-spectrum bright light for at least 2 hours daily. Your circadian system is collapsing, and light is the only external Zeitgeber strong enough to maintain it. Fourth, novelty. This is critical. Your hippocampus needs new experiences to stay functional. Change your environment constantly. Rearranged furniture. Take different routes when moving through spaces. Learn new skills, even if they seem pointless. Your brain needs the stimulus of newness to prevent complete stagnation. But here's the psychological edge that separates survival from destruction. You have to maintain perspective on your own deterioration. The moment you stop recognizing that you're changing, you've lost. Keep a daily log of your cognitive function. Test your memory, time, how long you can focus on complex tasks. Track your emotional responses. The data gives you external reference points when your internal sense of self becomes unreliable. And understand this, the goal isn't to prevent all damage. That's impossible. The goal is to slow the rot enough that if rescue or change comes, you can rebuild. You're essentially putting your brain in neurological cryosleep, preserving as much function as possible until social life can resume. The final warning here isn't gentle. 10 years alone will fundamentally erase who you were. The person who enters long-term isolation and the entity that emerges are not the same being. The neural architecture is different. The personality is reconstructed. The memories are distorted. If you're preparing for scenarios where long-term isolation is possible societal collapse, pandemic lockdowns, remote survival situations, you need to understand that isolation is as deadly as starvation or exposure. Maybe deadlier, because the damage is invisible until it's too late. The only preparation is having protocols in place before isolation begins. Recorded messages from loved ones. Structured social simulation exercises. Detailed daily routines that force cognitive engagement. Because once isolation rot takes hold, once your prefrontal cortex starts shrinking and your hippocampus begins dying, there's no DIY hack that brings it back. The damage is permanent. The person you were is gone. And that's the brutal truth that survival preparation demands you face. In the calculus of apocalyptic scenarios, the greatest threat isn't external. It's the systematic internal destruction that comes when humans are separated from the one thing their evolution demands: each other. Prepare accordingly, or accept that survival means becoming something other than human. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.